Hey everybody, it's Andrea with AZ & Co. and I'm here today at the Omar in Omaha, Nebraska. I'm going to talk to you guys about how to curate the perfect head table. Now when it comes to a wedding head table, there's three different approaches you could take essentially. Number one is the traditional long banquet tables set in one long row. Not my favorite, and I'll talk to you in a moment about why I don't love that concept. Second option would be what I consider a king's table approach, which would be taking those banquet tables and rather than placing them in one horizontal long line, butting them up in a more of a rectangular fashion. Third option would be for the couple that really just wants an intimate dinner, the two of them kind of showcased in what's called a sweetheart table, which is just a Mr. and Mrs. table. When it comes to placement of head table within your wedding venue, think of a couple things. Number one, I highly recommend talking to the wedding venue coordinator of the venue that you rented for your reception and ask them to provide you with optional floor plans that they've utilized in that space previously. They're going to be your best source of information when it comes to maximizing your guest count within the venue and knowing what floor plan or layout is going to work best. For me, what I love most when I think of head table placement, and it's what I'm doing here today at the Omar, is putting the table, or the head table rather, in proximity of the center of the room. Why do we want to do that? Well, for me, I think that you should be within, the center of the room so that you are closest to the majority of your guests. And then from there, if you're not doing an assigned seating chart, having your reserved table, so your parents, your grandparents, your closest family and friends that are part of your reserved tables are then positioned closest to you. It's my favorite. It's what I recommend to all my clients. Some venues have, it doesn't always work out that way depending on maximizing guest count within the floor plan. Okay, that's enough talking. Let's get to creating. Okay, so some venues have different things that are stationary within the space that maybe you don't want in the background of all of your beautiful wedding photos. In this particular venue, as much as I love the Omar, I don't love the giant sign, especially when it's going to be behind bride and groom at their head table. So best way to cover or get rid of, quote unquote, things like that would be a pipe and drape system. So today I brought in a very beautiful taupe velveteen drape to cover this space, and then backdrop in front of that, Mr. and Mrs. chairs, and head table scape from there. Okay, so what is a pipe and drape system? Pipe and drape system, think about it as drapes in your home, very similar concept. When you're hanging drapes in your home, what is the number one thing you should not do? You do not want drapes too short for your windows, just like you don't want to wear too short of pants. When I thought through height of my drape, number one, I wanted to cover this sign. So knowing, height of wall versus height of drape, my drapes are 120 inches high, and then I have my adjustable crossbars that are going to expand as far as I need them to. I've got 4 drapes, 50 inches wide, so I've got 200 inches to cover this sign. So do think about dimensions. Back to pipe and drape system. So a pipe and drape system, you essentially have bases, which are these heavy metal things that have what's called a peg. This peg is what's going to hold your upright or your pole that is then going to hold the crossbar, which is the same thing as a curtain rod. These are uprights, so you can get these from any rental company. They do have adjustable uprights and stationary uprights. These happen to be adjustable. I love them being adjustable because then I can, go from 8 feet to 15, 16 feet if I need to. I don't like to see the pole. For me, I want people, when they see a backdrop or drape specifically, that it does feel like it's just part of the space. So seeing the poles is one of my big no-nos. So I take these binder clips, which you can find at your local Staples or Office Depot or Target or wherever, and clip the drape around the pole. I feel like Omar's sign there, and then poof of the wand, and it's gone. It's beautiful. You just want to hug it. It's beautiful velveteen drape. So it creates texture, and it serves a purpose to cover something that we don't want in the background of all the wedding photos. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, I don't love that long horizontal head table, and here's why. I want you guys to picture going to mom and dad's house for Thanksgiving dinner and you're around your closest family that you love dearly, all 12 of them or whatever, and you're sitting at a table trying to talk to your fifth cousin on your right, and you're talking like this. Doesn't make sense to me, right? It's not intimate. It does not make sense to my brain. So I love to approach a head table in the same fashion that I would approach a Thanksgiving tablescape or a romantic dinner, going out or in home. Taking those banquet tables, 8 foot or 6 foot, getting linens that drop to the floor. So these are 90 by 156. So they go all the way to the floor. We want to cover those ugly legs. And then butting them up together to make one big rectangle. Today we have 4 because we're seating 17 at the head table. Take into consideration the count of your bridal party. Some people like to include the ushers at the head table, some don't. This particular client wanted the ushers at the head table, which is also why it's an odd number, which does drive my brain a little crazy because that's not going to be completely even. But do what you want. Whatever you want, whoever you want at that head table, do that. Just make sure you have enough place settings for each of those individuals and accommodate for approximately 4 place settings to the side of a standard 8-foot table. And I'm like, let there be light. So there's numerous things that you could do when it comes to designing your head table and putting something above you. A lot of people opt to not do that, whether that's due to budget or logistics. You know, it does take adequate time in a venue to do things like we're doing today, which is hanging multiple chandeliers above the center of the head table. I love light, I love floral sprays or floral chandeliers. They're all great options. Just take into consideration how much time you have to do it, but it's also why there is value in hiring an event designer or event planner or event florist that can execute that type of design for you. You want to keep that ambient mood, so don't go with a 100-watt light bulb in 7 chandeliers. It'll be way too bright, it will stick out, and not in a romantic fashion. So I've got the lowest wattage I could find. These are 25 watt, I believe. So, but times 7, and then we're gonna have all that candlelight down the center. Okay, so then there's logistics. You have to think about, number one, if you can even do something like this based off the structure of the venue, which also comes down to floor plan, mapping out where a head table is gonna go. In this case, it worked for me to do it the way I wanted to do it, which was center of the room, covering the sign that was a stationary element on the wall of the venue, and then taking existing poles and beams above the head table to attach the chandeliers. We did have to finagle a little bit to get it center, because of course we want the chandeliers, again, similar to your tablescape or chandelier at home, having it down the center of the table, or excuse me, hanging above the center of your table. These are the things that perhaps I shouldn't be doing, such as positioning ladder and climbing on it, but I do all the things. So if you have a team that can do it, that's even better. Okay, so it's important to wear pockets. So I've got zip ties, I've got clips, I've got a scissors, everything I need once I get up there, because there's nothing worse than going up the ladder to only have to come back down the ladder. And I don't have a right hand right now, so this is how we're gonna do this. For those of you that wanna know where I got these really beautiful black wicker chandeliers, there are 3 different styles, as you can see, 1, 2, 3. I chose to do them in this fashion. Number one, I wanted to get as many across the length of the head table as possible, but then bringing in variation of size. These are all from World Market. Love World Market, and I love that they sell everything there that you need to do them. And this is essentially a lampshade. Really, you could put this on a lamp base and you have a lampshade. And the great thing about any event planner, or if you're DIYing your own wedding, these cord kits have the actual plug versus a hard wire. Meaning if it's a hard wire, which I've done this multiple times also, you get a chandelier, and if it's hard wire, you have to convert it into a plug-in so that you can install it for a one-time use or one-day use in a venue. So World Market has the cord kit, which you see here. These just literally, this is what it looks like. So very simple. I feel like they couldn't have done that down easier. So you put it through where you would put it on your lamp base, screw it on tight, and then you would attach your light bulb. Low wattage light bulb. And I think these cord kits they're less than $20. Worth every penny because you can reuse them. If you want to buy a different chandelier to install for a different event, for those event planners out there that want to maximize their inventory, I own these in black, white, and gold. So I use them all the time. Make sure you have your supplies. Like I said, zip ties, scissors, before you get up on that ladder. So with setting any space, once you got your ceiling done, floor comes next. I love bringing in a rug. Again, thinking about design in your home and your dining room table. What do you have underneath your dining room table? Likely a rug. So we've got the rug, and then we're gonna do backdrop next, which is gonna be some black fun shelving to have flickering candlelight behind them, and the little bud vase florals that we also have throughout the tablescape design. If I counted the number of times I walked back and forth and or had a set of eyes on the other end of a room as I'm creating a space, it's astronomical. So what I just did, I stepped back to look because I want everything. So chandeliers that are gonna be center of head tablescape also need to be centered within backdrop, so making sure that the drape and the back shelving or backdrop are centered with that. Some things just work out for me. I got to get this over a little bit further than I had originally anticipated. And the red of this Omar sign that we so desperately want to cover is slightly sticking out, which will bother me. Even if it's that much, it will bother me. So again, binder clip to clip back over the upright. We're gonna now clip to the very corner of that R. Our rug is definitely off. Also, the venue flooring that has the center blocks and the way that they do, it makes it very easy to help map your floor plan out and make sure things are placed symmetrically. Symmetrical. I make up words. Sometimes your eye is tricked by other things around it. So I'm gonna come back to this because I can move this after I've set the tables. I think once my eye sees that the tables are in the right position according to the chandeliers hanging directly center above, it'll help my eye know whether or not that's straight. So I'm gonna come back to finishing the backdrop. No. Okay. We may have to expand the adjustable, which is why we like the adjustable crossbar, because I think I'm just gonna have to expand it. I was hoping that I wouldn't have to, but I'm going to have to. Dang it. Okay, so once you have your linens set, so you've got your base to your table, essentially, next step would be, we're gonna focus on the center of the table. So start in and build outward. You don't have to do that by any means, but my advice to you would be, it's way easier to do it like that because then you're not leaning over a table, place setting and messing it up while you're trying to get to the center of your table. I love doing a table runner. Number one, it's gonna cover this crack where the two tables came together, because we want it to kind of have that feeling that it's one grandiose, big rectangular table. This particular table runner is a gauze fabric, so it's kind of that crinkly fabric. It brings in some texture. The taupe color is part of the color palette we are using today for this bride. And it matches perfectly to our neutral rug that we've got grounded, where Mr. and Mrs. are going to sit here. sometimes I will play and play and play. Okay, cool. So we've got our table runner. So one of the ways to really maximize your florals, and it's really a pretty staple thing that most people do, is to place your bridal bouquets at the head table. Oftentimes I use a very basic clear cylinder 7-inch vase. Today I thought it would be great to bring in the matte black because it goes with the rest of the aesthetic that we're doing, and I had plenty of them in inventory to do that. So we're gonna take the cylinder vases, these will hold the bridal bouquets, and we're gonna put them down the center of the table. So these particular cylinder vases are from Hobby Lobby. Get them when they're 50% off, and I think they're like $10 a piece. You gotta be careful with them because they do kind of scuff to some degree if you don't wrap them or pack them appropriately. But they are actually also, fun fact, chalkboard, conducive to writing with chalk on them. If you notice, I placed the cylinder vases even widths apart across the entire scape of the table. And then bringing in height, which I love taper candles for that sake. Most venues won't allow you to have an open flame, which is totally fine. It's more aesthetic for me. And at the very minimum, what I do is work with the photographer to collaborate on that moment where we can get that very romantic tablescape photo by just lighting them for, 15 minutes, and most venues are totally okay with that. And these I like to place, I don't want everything in a straight line. Well, that might be your eye, it's not typically mine. So I kind of want to go in more of a zigzag fashion where I do have the cylinder vases in this case aligned and symmetrically placed on the table. I want to do the tapers kind of weaved in and out. So the floral design today was namely a ton of roses. I think I brought in over 500 stems. We had inverted quite a few of them and then paired them with dried florals. And voila! No actual greenery is part of the floral design today. It's all bleached. So we got bleached ruscus and different dried florals to go in combination with the fresh florals. So I'm doing little bud vases down head table to play into what we also have down the rest of the banquet tables for the guest tables. So we've got the center of our tablescape done with the vases for our bridal bouquets, our little bud vases, the table runner, the candlelight. Next is gonna be setting every place setting. So I love a layered place setting. I'm very, very, very passionate that every wedding that I do, that the couple and their bridal party are eating off real dishware for their first dinner as a married couple, even if that means the rest of your guests are eating off a disposable plate, which that is the case for this wedding. But we did bring in layered place settings for all of the guest tables with a plate charger and then placing a hard, very nice plastic plate that is also disposable, but it photographs truly like a real plate. But then you don't have the added cost to the plate rental, the cleaning of the plate, the catering service that goes with a plated dinner or a real plate service. The head tablescape, I like to make it a little bit different than the rest of the guest tables. I want it to be elevated. I want it to be a little bit different. But what does a layered place setting mean? Well, that means that we are starting layer by layer. First layer being a plate charger or placemat, a dinner plate, an appetizer plate or salad plate, depending on what your menu is. Today it's going to be plate charger or placemat in this case, a white standard dinner plate, and then a matte black salad plate that mimics the cylinder vases that the bouquets are going to go in. From there, we're going to layer it with a real linen napkin. We're going to knot it with a sprig of the dried ruscus that's in the florals throughout the entire floral design, and then doing a dinner menu card on that place setting. So that's kind of the top layer. And then we'll have place cards with all of the names of the bridal party that are positioned by the goblet. As far as drinkware goes, we're gonna do a goblet and a champagne flute. So you've got two different glassware options. And then the black and gold flatware that will be fork, knife, spoon. Again, bringing in something a little bit different than the rest of the guest tables. So let's see what that looks like. Okay, so we did all of their graphic design, so all of their print, everything from invitation suite to welcome signage, programs, dinner menus, place cards, bar signage, cards and gift signage. So just a quick note, so when I go to place cards at the head table, we place the bridal party in order of how they walk down the aisle. So I always reference back to the program because that's how it's listed for me. I don't obviously know the bridal party personally. So I take the program, I reference it, and then I put the place cards in order, and then I place accordingly, starting with groom first, best man first, groomsmen in order how they walk down the aisle from there. So just a takeaway. Again, I think it's great to have them on there. It is another kind of finishing touch to the entire place setting. When it comes to head tablescape, I love bringing in different chairs, elevating the seating where the bride and groom and the bridal party is going to sit. So these are beautiful velveteen chairs, black with the gold legs that goes with the rest of the aesthetic, having them sit in this, or maybe it's a banquette or just something that elevates it. So they're sitting in something different from the rest of the bridal party is sitting in something different from the rest of the guests, and those chairs for the guest tables. If it's not in the budget to bring in other chairs, then let's just elevate the head table. Let's tell the photographer, hone in on all the detail shots at that space in terms of the entire circumference of the table, if you will, and then hone in on all the details on the tabletops of the other tables, not so much the chairs or the entire panoramic view of your venue. So just a couple of takeaways. Today, again, velveteen chairs with the gold legs for Mr. and Mrs., and then brought in the matte black, again, carrying through that matte black vibe with the matte black chairs for all of the bridal party. And then something to think about, make sure that when you're placing the chairs that they're directly center with your place setting and that they are all the same distance out so that when you get that side angle view or photo of your tablescape, it's all in a nice, cohesive, beautiful line. And in this case, it makes it really easy because I'm literally lining it up with the crack on the floor. All right, so head tablescape is set. It's beautiful. I'm super happy as I'm glowing. So we got to finish the backdrop because if you remember, we were trying to reposition, make sure it was centered in line with the chandeliers that were hanging, carried all the way through to the center of the backdrop with the bookcases and then covering that stationary sign within the venue. So we're gonna light this up with candlelight and little bud vases of florals, kind of same vibe as what we've got down the center. All right, everybody. Well, that is what it takes to make a beautiful head tablescape. Everything from the backdrop to the centerpiece, to the place setting, to the chairs, to the rug that we're standing on right now. I hope you found some value in this. They've been wanting to lock it up here for about 2 hours, but that's what happens when Andrea gets into creation mode. So I'm super happy how it turned out. I cannot wait for this to all be lit up and the ambient mood and this bridal party sharing their beautiful, delicious dinner as they celebrate the couple. So cheers.